To help us understand and reflect on what happened in Marikana 10 years ago, we're now joined by Dr Luke Sinwell, who's an associate professor at the University of Johannesburg and is the co-author of The Spirit of Marikana, the Rise of Insurgent Trade Unionism in South Africa. Thanks very much indeed for joining us, Dr Sinwell. 10 years, it seems like a long time, but it seems like just the other day when the country was shocked. But children have grown up, particularly of those miners that lost their lives. And I just wonder, when you've had a chance to reflect on what happened 10 years ago today, what comes to mind for you?
Two things come to mind. The one thing is the willingness of the state repression to combine with those who support the interests of capital. That would be Lonmin, and now it's become Sibanye. But that is not a better company just because it has a different name. It still uses the same method of extraction which led to the problem in the first place and caused the death of the killing of 34 mine workers who were on strike demanding a living wage. The system of racial capitalism has been continuous in the post-1994 period. So we expect that unfortunately, when people withdraw their labor power and there's so much platinum and so many millions taken out, 80% of the world's platinum, it was then the third largest platinum mine in the world, 28,000 mine workers, and then they were actually called by Cyril Ramaphosa dastardly criminal. The weaponization of language against indigenous black people who have been dispossessed, and then automatic machine guns capable of shooting 600 rounds per minute, mortuary vehicles coming in earlier in the day. But I can go into detail, but just to say that the other thing, in addition to that repression, the key thing there is that the movement did not die on the 16th of August. In fact, it intensified. So in that book, The Spirit of Marikana, Sipiwe Mbata and I trace the history of the mine workers movement back to its precise detail, including in a conversation in the changing rooms at one specific shaft, which was called Korea shaft. There was Korea, Eastern, and Western, and then we traced the process through which people mobilized independently and then engaged with management. That was actually on the 21st of June, 2012, until eventually the rock drill operators from the three different shafts emerged at the stadium on the 9th of August, and then in a way the rest is history. Except that when they mowed down the men, the workers of Marikana, of Lonmin, they held meetings that night in the shadows while their slain brothers lied there on the ground, and when they were arresting people, and decided to continue the strike. So that's what we call the spirit of Marikana, which is do or die, and the oppressed reclaiming what is rightfully theirs on their own terms, regardless of the outcome. So they continued to strike on the 17th of August. We arrived there on the 18th of August, and obviously we didn't know exactly what had happened, but we built relationships with mine workers, with the men and the women, especially of Marikana, who have been active, by the way, over the last 10 years in Sakala Sonke, Sina Temba, the different organizations that have emerged to put pressure on Lonmin at that time to deliver basic services to the people, and now on Sibanye, and both of them have failed, by the way, dismally. Amnesty International indicated that they use smoke and mirrors to dodge their social responsibility and only built 3 houses out of 5,500. And now Sibanye, we're told by the same Amnesty International and by CALS that they're doing a similar kind of dodging, but that they may have a better publicity stunt in terms of how they try to remember Marikana through a Marikana renewal program, but one that is disconnected from ordinary people who can't access electricity across the road from Sibanye, that uses electricity, that takes electricity in order to bring platinum out of the earth, but is not willing to give it to the people across the road who still live in the shacks. They still live in shacks below the mountain where the commemoration was today, and where they ran for their lives, literally, to escape barbed wire. They literally ran for their lives back home in Nkaneng into the shacks where they stay, where they didn't have access to water and electricity, and where still today they don't.
Dr. Sinwell, I've heard you give us a thread and mention a few names as you shared your thoughts. There was an inquiry, 300 days duration, I think 153 million rand or something spent. But we didn't quite get to the bottom of who was responsible. From your research, your interactions with the people on the ground, where do you point the finger of responsibility?
From day one that we spoke with the workers and we heard what they said at the mass meeting that they held on 18 August of about 10,000 workers, and we recorded actually what they said. Like, for example, Julius Malema was there as well. But they indicated that they were killed for standing up for their rights. So the Marikana Judicial Commission of Inquiry may have seemed good. It wasn't all bad. It did tell a story. But it never found out, it never indicated, it never prosecuted anyone for the killing of the 34 mine workers. It never prosecuted anyone. So according to that Commission of Inquiry, the workers, if you look at the discourse or the language that's used within the 500 or 600 page report, you find that the workers are actually blamed for their militancy for killing themselves. So it's that the police had the legitimate right to use necessary force, when in fact they used automatic weapons, and the Commission of Inquiry never put any of those police officers who pulled the trigger onto the stand. And also, there was obvious plans, the toxic collusion between the police, government, and lawmen, calling the day before, calling this D-Day, we are going to end this tomorrow. That is a paraphrase of what they said. Or calling it dastardly criminal act, where we need concomitant action, and then sending in automatic weapons and hundreds of police in order to contain people on a mountain who were withdrawing their labor power. So we believe that that this is the results of government and corporation combining. The government adopted neoliberal capitalist policies in post 1994 throughout the transition, namely through the growth, employment, and redistribution policy, which meant that government became in bed with business. The National Union of Mine Workers became in bed with business. The one that was supposed to represent the workers became the National Union of Management. So it was this kind of collusion to undermine the independent working class power that was not only fermenting at Lonmin, but across the entire platinum belt. And they had hoped to put the fire out, but in fact it spread further because the workers and the community and other people in South Africa who occupy land and build shacks, also the farm workers, but the platinum belt in general, because then it was the three largest platinum mines in the world, Impala, Amplats, and Lonmin, like Mathunjwa said, they all united for that same living wage demand of 12,500, for which workers had died on the mountain.
Dr. Sinwell, I wish we could talk for longer, but we've run out of time. But thank you so much indeed for sharing your thoughts with us today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you too.
Thank you.